Greetings, Earthlings. I've been watching you, and I see this dude doing some math. Let me get my binoculars out and take a look and see what he's really doing. Okay, 9.3, 1 through 5 odds. So we're solving an equation with rational expressions. And in order to do that, we have to have common denominators. And that's the smallest thing you can multiply up to. And it looks like if you multiply this one by 3n, right, you get 3n squared and 3n squared, then you'd have common denominators for all the fractions. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom of this fraction by 3n, okay? And you get 4 over 3n squared equals 3n plus 1. Since you have common denominators, you can add those two things together. And when you add fractions with common denominators, like 1/7 plus 2/7, when you have common denominators, you only need one denominator, and it doesn't change, but you do add the tops. 1 plus 2 is 3. So when you add 1/7 plus 2/7, you get 3/7, okay? So anyway, this fraction, 3n over 3n squared plus 1 over 3n squared is 3n plus 1 over 3n squared. Now, since these are equal, these two fractions, and the denominators are equal, we can just concentrate on the top. But let me tell you what's really happening mathematically. If you multiply both sides of the equal sign by 3n squared, then this 3n squared on the top cancels with that one on the bottom, right? And all you're left with is the numerators. 4 equals 3n plus 1. And then to solve that, of course, you subtract 1, and you get 3n equals 3. And when you divide by 3, n is 1, okay? But we have to be careful because there are excluded values. And if our solution is one of the excluded values, then it is an extraneous solution, meaning it's not really a solution. So let's check and see. What values of n make the denominators up here 0? Right? Because you cannot divide by 0. And those values are simply 0. That's the excluded value. N cannot be 0. N equals 1 is not the same as that 0, so we're good. Okay, let's look at 3. It looks really similar. The common denominator looks like will be, well, what's the smallest thing you can multiply up to? The common denominator has everything this denominator has times anything that's in these denominators that's not already there. So this denominator has just an n, and there's already an n there. This denominator has an n squared, there's always an n squared there. So it looks like the common denominator is 2n squared. Now remember, when you're subtracting, change it to addition. That'll keep things from going badly. To get this denominator to be 2n squared, you multiply the top and the bottom by 2n. And to get this denominator to be 2n squared, you multiply the top and the bottom by 2. So this numerator, or this whole fraction, does not change. This changes to 2n minus 2. 2n minus 2. Now the denominators are the same on both sides of the equal sign, so we can multiply both sides of the equal sign by 2n squared. I'm not going to show that part, but this is the equation we have to solve. Oops, it's supposed to be an n. So you add 2 to both sides. 2n equals 3, and divide by 2, and you get 1.5, right? N is 3/2. Let's check and see what the excluded value is, what n cannot equal. And it looks like The only thing it can't be is 0. So there's the solution, and there's the excluded value. Okay? Now, let's do number 5. Ooh, this one's different because we're going to have to factor it before we can solve this one. So we know exactly what the common denominator is going to be. This one factor is n minus 4 times n plus 4. Because it's a difference of perfect squares. And this one's just n plus 4, and this is n minus 4 times n plus 4. And you can see what the common denominator is going to be, n minus 4 times n plus 4. Right? So this one, to get the common denominator, you have to multiply the top and the bottom by n minus 4. So this we already have as n minus 4, n plus 4, so it's 1. This is 3n minus 12 plus 6. And this is n minus 4 times n plus 4. Common denominator, so we can multiply both sides of the equal sign by the common denominator, and we're left with just what's in the numerator. When you add negative 12 and 6, you get negative 6. So when you add 6, you get 7. So 3n equals 7. And divide by 3. N is 7/3. And what can n not be? Let's check and see if there's any extraneous solutions. The value of n that makes this 0 is positive 4. The value of n that makes that 0 is negative 4. So those are the excluded values. And I'm done. That's 1 through 5 odd.